Hey guys, Michael Mechanical here, and today I need to show you that the engine is out once again, and well, I've got some problems. I can't do actually any work on it for a couple of reasons. I can do maybe some little things, but it's actually not properly in. So these are the two bottom bolts, and I need a spacer between here and there, but also need a spacer for the screw itself, but you know, same as what the top is, but the top two screws are in, but I can't actually roll the motor over, turn it over, do any work because the two bottom screws are not actually holding anything in place. So based on that, I have to go looking for washers like I've done recently, and I have to find bushes so that I can make up the difference in space. Now I do have a crap ton of stuff here, and I do have some high tensile washers somewhere, and I have used them before, but unfortunately none of these kits are those high tensile washers. I don't actually know where they've actually gone, and if I do find them, I'll be lucky to make a little bit more progress, but in the meantime I've got no materials until I find them. They've gone missing. Now I could use steel tube, however that's probably not a good idea, because it's not really solid. It's very thin wall material, and ideally you need something thicker so that it can put pressure on all faces and let the bolt do the work rather than the tube having to do some work. Now if the lathe here was running, I could throw some tube in there, some 4140 steel bar, drill holes, but then also on the top of that I could also, you know, turn down the diameter to whatever I need it. So ideally it's to get the size right. So it's not a good day at all. I have to find some bits and pieces, and then if I can find them I can make some more progress. If not, I can't. So that's the progress update. Now another thing I'm going to point out is yesterday I was swearing and cursing a lot, and it's not for no reason, because doing this car was actually much harder than my ute because the tolerances were very different on the vehicles. Now I could get in back here on my car and crack these bolts here on my car with a spanner from underneath the car or a spanner from on top of the engine. Now once the engine goes all back together again, you won't be able to access these bolts with a normal spanner. You have to get it in there with a socket. With the tolerances on this body, that's just not seemingly going to be that possible because it's just too bad tolerances. Heck, I just remembered something. I don't even know if I ever put the body mounts together again, and I did. So I just need to check that because I've forgotten all about if I had ever done that again, or not. So to understand, the hardest bolt on the whole engine right now has been this one right here. You can neither get into it to reach it with your hands, nor can you actually get the tool in there smoothly, because it's literally a spot where it's just so tough to get there, and it's insanely hard that I don't even think I'll be able to get that bolt in at the end of the day. Even though I've done it before, I have no idea how I did it in the past, but it was such a pain in the butt I couldn't. Now I need to understand how I've organized things at the moment, and it's good to share this with you guys. So I have some unnecessary hood bolts here. These ones are the engine bolts, so they're for mounting the engine to the chassis. I have some, they were here before. Those bolts, I have no idea what they were, but my dad leaves his beers everywhere. Those bolts. See, now this is where things get tricky. You forget what bolts are what for where, and those bolts there are likely to be the AC bolts. They are what hold the AC in place, because we had to drop the AC from the main bracket, and I believe there's only meant to be 3 bolts in there, but there will be a 4th one because the 4th one goes here, which isn't the same. It will be a very different bolt in there, but it will be also the same bolt, which will make it even harder. So if I figure out which bolts are which, I can put the right bolt in, and that is for the cord, the earth point for the engine block. When I go over this engine, I'm going to be checking that these aren't rusty, these bearings that come off this engine. As for the bores, they are rusty, so got not much light. have to figure out what I'm going to do today, because I can't make any progress because of issues. But this block has been sitting for so long. There is all this crystallization built up in the cooling system here. And then over here, I don't want to touch anything, but you can see some rust in the walls and on top of the block here. It was all sprayed with WD-40 before it was left to sit there for ages, because we knew we were going to come back to it eventually. And it seems to be like surface rust from condensation and whatnot. Now, on the notes of other things we need to do, we need to go over the engine and look all the oil that was leaking on this engine, where it was coming from. So we know there's like a leaky spot right here somewhere. We know this hose has some leaky spot here. We know there's crystallization. I need to make sure there's no crystallization in the block as well, I think, because that can't be a good thing. It can't be. Very, very bad. I've got to get all the furry things out of the holes here. They're like oil galleries. That's a return. And all that furry stuff is from a scourer. So I've cleaned that block, but I never cleaned it properly because I never cleaned all the stuff out, but I knew there was more work to be done. That scourer pad can't be good for the engine, so it has to be cleaned up. And yeah, what else is there? They wanted to take the injection pump off and send that off to make sure that that's in good standing condition, which I think it will be okay. But we also need to clean out these ports when we put the injector rails back on. We need to clean the injector rails out and make sure they're clean. Depending on the condition of everything, I'm either going to put it together or I'm going to be replacing some parts, which I don't want to have to do. So, going to avoid replacing any parts, only putting in what we have, and that's about it. Most of the bolts that are on the face, like this one here, most of these bolts tend to be about 24 Newton meters in torque. So most bolts. Some bolts are a little bit different in variance, but most of them I just go 24 and leave it at that. That means I don't have to change my torque range every time. I can always double check on the book and see if I'm right or wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's 24. And what I'll do is I'm going to assemble as much of this as possible before it goes back into the car. That way, when I pick the engine up, which is unlikely to happen because I got one problem. It's the lifting mounts here. That's the type that we have. I think what I'm going to have to do is custom make my own lifting mounts to match what the OEM ones would normally similarly be. And then I can make some new lifting points and lift it that way with that. And then I got to get it in there and push it all together. The problem is the transmission has literally dropped. So the transmission being down low makes it actually hard for me to put that back in because I have to lift the trans up and then I push it all together. That's not going to happen easily at all. That's going to be a very hard job to do. Another thing that we've learnt is it's possible we could take off these engine mounts here at the rubbers to try and get it to mount it and mesh with the transmission easier. Put all the belts in the back of the motor as easily as we possibly can, and then from there put the engine mounts back on and go from there. So this is going to be a lot of fun and games. And also we never had a pressure washer until now, so now we have a pressure washer. We could get the pressure washer in here and wash down any of the parts we haven't cleaned. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to waste my time pressure washing this car. I want it done. I want it out of the way. And with the pressure washing side of things, it will rip off some of the paint. In another hand, I can do that anytime. I can pressure wash it later when it's back together again. Even though it's easier now, I'm just going to get splattered all over in the engine bay anyway. So I'm just going to leave it. I'm not going to worry about it. And I'm going to end this video as soon as I can to try and figure out where some more bits and pieces are and see if I can work with the problems that we've got. And I want to leave this video with you guys to let you know this is where we're at. As I said, the problems that I had were that top engine bolt there was a pain in the butt. That one also was a pain in the butt, but we managed to have enough room to get to it. And yeah, I know there's some more bits and pieces missing, but yeah. We have these two bolts which went on top of this, which held it to there, and we're hoping there's no leaks or anything either, which have been dripping on the floor. Any bolts, normally they're in the same area where other things are. I know there's going to be missing parts. I know there is. I just know it, certainly. But besides that, I'm going to let you guys go. I'm Michael Mechanical, and I'm signing off for a little while. Bye.